really sure what that's. Yeah, I'm not really sure why that's there. And then I guess, for anybody, maybe what the eraser does.
Thank you for that reminder. Yes. Let's call it. Let's bring it. Thank you for I never I kind of clear and I never use it, so thank you for reminding me.
Oh, I use it a lot. I erase a lot.
There you go. Let me let's try it, which is the best way. So we're gonna share the screen. I'm gonna share my jam so I have opportunities for that. So let's say I'm writing, right? And I don't want it. I don't want it. So there is an interesting tool, which is the eraser. So you click on it, and why is it not?
Maybe it only works. Maybe.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think it maybe only works for things that you draw.
Hey, you got me. There you go. So now we know it only works for things that we draw. I thought it would work in text, but no, it doesn't. So now we know. So let's try the pen again, right? And let's try text again. So let's use the eraser. So the eraser will erase what I wrote, what I drew, but it won't work here. The only way to kind of get rid of this is by clearing the frame, right? Or simply deleting it.
I think.
Hold on. Go. I want to try something, but I don't think it works. No, it doesn't. It only erased this. Now I know. Now I know. Christy, what are you gonna say?
Well, I think to get rid of your text box, I think you have to highlight it again, the text box. And no, go to the text box you already wrote. And yeah, now exactly.
So kind of go to the text box, over it, you will see the three dots. Click on it, and we have choices. We could edit, duplicate, delete, order, bring to the front, bring to the back. So I'm gonna delete it, okay? Boom. You know, Chris, I have to say, I don't use the select that much. I have to confess.
It seems to me that, trying to remember what application, maybe I was using it on my, it seems to me like I had to go back and use it to, like I couldn't just go to the pens and get the pens to work. And
I owe you that one.
Yeah, I can't remember, but I have had to use it and it's annoying. It's like you have to choose that before I could toggle between different things.
One thing I use when I use it to showcase a principle or something that the students only have view, I like the laser because I point. Let's say we're working on an equation or something, I kind of point what I want them to look at, and I like that. But I have to confess, I don't use it at all.
I think I may have had to use it when I'm using like a tablet where I have a pen. And I think because there's no cursor, because there's no trackpad or way to control the cursor, I think that's when I have to use it.
Maybe, but as thank you for sharing that. I try to, I stick to the other tools, I have to say. Another thing I wanted to show you, when you work with students, and especially when in remote environments, one way for me to check that the students are working and I make sure what they're doing is I click on this arrow and then I see the activity of the panels. When you kind of close, you expand the panel. So you go right here, click on here, and then you can see the movement. You can see working, right? So let's say you're in breakout room 1, breakout room 2, 3, 4, and then you could see how the students are doing and the activity. You could see what group is really working or who's just not working. So I think that's very useful to know when for management when you're using it.
Do you use it for group work a lot?
I do
Do
a
you?
lot.
Okay. I just have trouble getting my students to work in
I
group.
think even with teachers, it requires a lot of routine practice. It requires like the first time is not gonna go well, the second time is not gonna go well, but persistency with the tool until they figure it out, and they do. They do.
Yeah.
But
I-
it doesn't happen right away.
I think it's such an improvement on trying to use the whiteboard in Zoom. Yeah, I just think it's so much better.
Yeah, of course, like you have that choice now, a much improved Zoom whiteboard and whiteboard templates. With Jamboard, and if your audience is comfortable with the Jamboard too, you keep using it. But you're right, Zoom has improved the tool quite a bit. What I wanted to show you as examples. So let me go to my jams to show you.
And Liz Elena, while you're doing that, so Lori asked about using this on phones, and it does work really well on phones. For example, that activity that Liz Elena had us do where we moved our dots onto the red line, that would work really well on a phone. You want to be careful what you're asking people to do, but it does actually work quite well. And I added a QR code to the next slide in the slides, so you can try scanning that and getting to my Jamboard just now and see if you can move things around, because I gave you added capability.
Nice.
But it does work. It is one of those ones that does actually one Google tool that works well.
Very good. Yeah, that's I agree. That works really well with the phone. You're right.
I would say there's a caveat to that, which is it depends on the age of the make of the brand of the iPhone, of the smartphone, and also the age, which version like of iPhones they have. I've seen some things available to some people and not to others.
Interesting. I wouldn't think like the version would determine that, but good to know. So in terms of like thinking about a specific instructional examples, I wanted to show you, I collected some from Google, some added some of mine, and I wanted to show you how versatile this tool could be. So this is the famous Prayer model for vocabulary. Look how pretty, right? So you could create your own templates for the students, share the link with the students, and they could work with the model, they could work with vocabulary that way. It's visually appealing, then you put your work here, and then like feel they could complete everything. So that's one graphic organizer for vocabulary that I like to use with the tool. So for math, so you kind of have your different activities, find the measure of the angle you're looking for, and you can have students collaborate and write what they want. A very interesting routine that we use in math, which one doesn't belong of the series, and then they could use a sticky. I think this one doesn't belong or that one doesn't belong. So it invites collaboration either all together or in small breakout rooms. And what I did was the same thing we were practicing, okay, to make the connection. So I changed the background to blue, and I found this snippet and uploaded the image for the students to work with. So I'm using the same skills that you were practicing with in your scavenger hunt. I love to do annotated readings with Jamboard. So you kind of have your text in the middle of a corner, and I like to use text analysis using Jamboard. Either me showcasing the students or the students kind of contributing with me to analyze part of the reading. I find that very useful. Sentence makers. So you have different parts of a sentence with the sticky notes, and you can assign a Jamboard to groups or individual students, and they could unscramble the sentence. I find that very useful.
Like that.
And then I put I found this and I thought I was so interested because this person put together a lot of strategies at once with the Jamboard. But for example, working with literacy strategies or reading strategies, you can have, let's say, the soapstone analysis, the speaker, occasion, audience, purpose, and tone. So you can have your text added, and you can have each sticky note for the students to write who the speaker is, what the occasion was, the audience. You can summarize main ideas by using hashtags, what's the main idea of the text, and everyone can hashtag the main idea. You can work with quotes and explain the significance of the quote. You can use that with the Jamboard as well as a tool to collaborate or to capture responses. And sometimes when we're in a remote environment, we miss the four corners activities or the talk or war activities. So the four corners activity, you're analyzing the text, or you're entering argumentative essay or whatever you want. You create your four corners, and then you put your text in the middle or whatever you're analyzing, and you make the students take corners, right? And divide. So I think that's for remote teaching a very useful strategy as well that I wanted to share with you for a specific content instruction. And again, your scavenger hunt, what I did was I inserted a shape to create my corners. I went to shape, drop this, right? I didn't want it green. I changed the color to blue, right? And you could either insert an A or you could insert a text, and you go A, you make a display, and I want to make it red. So that's your corner A. And that's how I build it. So everything we were doing through the scavenger hunt is how I built all my jams. So I want to check the chat for questions. Oh, okay. I missed that. The QR code. All right. Is there any I'm going to stop sharing. Is there any questions about it? And again, how to share, right? You will share it with me. And one thing you have to keep in mind is when you drop that link in the chat or when you're in person, which I have continued to use Jamboard in person, right? And the only thing I need again is the students to access the jam. And I think Nelly's going to walk us through that. A QR code is a good way to do it, right? One of the many ways to do it. You have to make sure what you want, right, for the lesson. If you want collaboration, you have to give editing access to the students, right, to your participants. If you just want the students to view what you're illustrating, then view only, okay? And if you restrict the Jamboard, I can't even access it, right? So when you're using this for class instruction, you got two ways: view only, if you're showcasing, or editing, if you're collaborating. I think Jamboard amplifies. I think, to me, the forte of Jamboard is collaboration. Collaboration. It's like, remember when we did the gallery walks in person, that we were walking around writing things together, that's the best use of Jamboard. It does amplify that quite a bit in remote settings. And also, if you don't want to use papers anymore, which has been done in some trainings that I did recently in person, we did it. Your gallery walk is your jam. It's a digital gallery walk, so we don't have paper, no problem. The key is you have to share it and you have to give editing access to it.
And there are two things that came up in my conversation with Susan earlier. So one of them is, so first of all, what I love about that electronic piece is that, everyone leaves with all that content, where when, we used to go and write it on the wall, that's a wonderful thing. I'm not saying don't do that, but then everyone leaves without that paper. So the nice thing with this is that everyone leaves with this content. But one of Susan's questions was, why would you choose Jamboard versus Padlet versus Wakelet? And again, depending on, I think you're talking about interactivity. I think, Jamboard stands out a mile for that kind of ability. But I was thinking, what, Liz Elena, how do you make the decision?
Yeah. So one thing going backward, right? When I'm designing either the lesson for students in particular, or lessons for teachers, you know, for professional development. So what's my objective, right? So for example, if I really want a lot of collaboration with the specific, so I'm showcasing the strategy, we're dissecting the strategy, and I want a lot of collaboration with that. I have two choices, Padlet or Jamboard, but I think visually Jamboard is more appealing. So I like the fact that Jamboard, I could work more with the background. I could create one jam and I can concentrate everything there. So interactivity, synchronously, I go for the Jamboard. For example, if I have pictures, but again, Jamboard could do that very well. So if I have a gallery walk of pictures, right, and I want my students to walk from picture to picture, telling me what they notice, I think Padlet is easy, so they don't have to walk through panel and panel and panel. So in the Padlet, I think they could put out everything. So depending on the objective and depending on what tool, so I always think, out of the tools I have at hand, I think two ways, right? What's the one that is easier for my objective that will enhance whatever my objective is? And I also think so I'm working with teachers. So I said, what are the tools that I have are accessible for students, right? And that the teachers could use to showcase, to work with the students. So it doesn't make any sense if I use a fancy tool and if the teachers cannot access it because they have to pay, or it's too sophisticated for, you know, the students cannot access it. So I think about those aspects and when I've decided on what tool to showcase. That's why I said Jamboard is one of those that comes at hand, because if you have a Google account, you have this. Padlet, it's interesting, right? So Padlet give you 3 free Padlets, where you always have to kind of recycle unless you pay, right, for a membership. Yeah, I have teachers that love their Padlets and they use it quite often, you know, like they recycle their Padlets. You don't have to do that with Jamboard. One thing that Padlet has that Jamboard does not have yet, but there are ways about it, is, you know, the video aspect. Like Padlet has a recording studio, so you could actually record yourself, record your instruction, or kind of showcase something by explaining yourself to the students. Jamboard does not have that yet.
And someone asked, Sabrina asked, how well is this suited to math instruction?
Say that again?
Math instruction?
For math. Yeah, for math, I think for math it's interesting because so the fear, the anxiety that math causes, and I think when I've seen teachers using Jamboard for opening topics and introducing topics, the aspect of collaborating together, right? Kind of you kind of set up your question or your graph or whatever the topic is, and then you invite the students to collaborate together. What do you notice? What do you think this means? It kind of reduces the anxiety level, and again, you can bring anything. You can bring the equation, you can bring a graph, you can bring a table, and maybe you cannot build it up with the utility tools of the Jamboard, but you could actually take a picture and bring it over. And insert the picture as we did together, right? Now, one thing I wanted to show you that I like about Jamboard too, let's say an activity occur and you really want to keep it, you really want to showcase it. You see these 3 dots right here where it says more actions next to the share button? So there's a share button and there are 3 dots, which is more. So you could actually download this as a PDF, which is really good. So you kind of want to save as a proof of documentation, or something, you know, you like that happen and a reaction you want to keep. You can download it as a PDF, which I thought is a good idea. Or you could save frame as an image. So let's say I like this frame, I'm going to save the frame as an image, which I think is really good. So if you notice, what I'm projecting now is an image, which I could use to upload again.
So Lisa, I just saw that it said history or something. So
yeah.
Nell had talked about someone maybe clearing the frame and she no longer had the Jamboard. So if you went to the history, could you get the version history, the first one?
That's a
hope-
very,
You hope so. What I found was that the time stops didn't. There was a time stop when everything was there, and then there was a time stop when there was nothing there, and I couldn't get back to it. So yes, this is always your saving grace in Google, especially when you're collaborating, is that you can get back to the version history. But sometimes it doesn't work, and it's the time between the things. But maybe I'm still bad at using those little arrows beside the time. Does that break it down even further? I'm not sure.
You know, I noticed that the other day with a Google Doc, and I thought maybe it was because different people were working on the doc. So whatever version they were working on, they might be able to see their own history. But when I went back and looked at the history, it took me back to when, you know, I just started it. And then there was no collaboration. So it may be specific to whoever the user is.
And that might be part of it. What I just saw now, though, so there were little tiny black arrows beside the larger timestamps. And what I did see is if I click on that, I get a much more broken down one. So that's something I'd never done before. See those little black arrows right beside. So it says April 26th. There's like a little tiny black arrow beside April 26th.
yes, yeah.
I've never.
Oh, the subversions of a version. There you go.
That's my new favorite thing.
A new version of a version. So
Yeah.
The idea is you can click on one of those versions and you could get back to wherever that is. And I had believed that was how these things work, because Kristen, your idea might be right, but the whole idea to me with the collaboration is that we all get to see everybody's changes. So I would hope, because that is the joy and the horror of using Google Docs together, is that someone could come in and just, accidentally wipe out everything.
that's what it is. Like, you gotta live with that. If in the Jamboard, my solution, if I really want, let's say I have a graph and it took me, oh my God, this, to graph that, I take a picture, I'm making an image, and then I upload it as I set a background. So my background is the graph or whatever, and then the students cannot, destroy it for me. But when I'm really preoccupied about, I don't want to lose this, so that's the way I do it. When we do text analysis, that's what I do. I have my poem or my chunk of a text. I take a picture, upload it as a background, and then we could all work analyzing the text. So no one deletes the text. Not that I worry too much, but then if someone deletes the text, that's it. No one can read it, So, and that's what I found. So a couple of things about Jamboard that is important if you want to play with it is how to find it, right? Your utility tools and how to share it. So how to find it, which you did, Waffle, or name the tool, google.jamboard.com, right? Your utility tools, play with it, right? And what you want to do out of it, and how to share it. So if you want view only, or if you want editing access, make sure you do that. I've done the best graphic organizers I think I've created lately have been with Jamboard. That's why I asked Adrian to kind of share, how do you do those shapes? Because I utilize the shapes to do my graphic organizers. And then what I do is, because then if I leave it as shapes, then people can move it. So what I do is I take a picture and make it an image, and then I upload it as background so nobody could change it for me.
So Lisa, you cannot delete the background?
No, if it's set as a background, no. Even with editing.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I think they will have to take a lot of work. I mean, you will have to.
They could replace the background, but they'd have to really consciously do that. I think what we're most concerned with is sort of incidental or accidentally, deleting something. If someone went in right now and you could change the background.
You could change the background, but wow, that then you try
that's a
to
real decision.
Yeah, that's why I said, well, they could, but that will take a lot. So I think accidents happen, and that's what I try to avoid, with setting the background. But
and it's similar, in Google Slides. Some people use Google Slides also as an interactive space, and you can put in a background there, which is not something that's easy to move around. and then people can type on top of that. Yes, mutiny, changing the background.
Change the background.
whole-
There you go. So yeah, that could happen. Actually, what I noticed was even with, I taught a class with Will recently. We made Jamboard what we were going to use, right? The routine tool that we were going to use, and yeah, and then people, they get used to it and they know exactly what to do. And even if they change something by accident, they fix it. Well, they fix it right away. So, and that's true for the students too.
And I think that's kind of what we're getting at here with this idea of routines, right? So if you use the first activity that we did with Liz Elena, where she was basically trying to get a sense of where we were, and now she could technically do that again at the end and see where we all are feeling. Those kinds of assessments, just as a quick little hands-on, you're actually moving something, those can be great, whether you're doing this in person or still via Zoom, just to have, just to give people that opportunity to kind of interact with something in this, it's still computers, but it's kind of a physical movement. And I've seen great activities where, there's fill in the blanks that you can do there, where people can, the background has the fill in the blank sentence, but the words, the words you're going to put in the blanks are on, text boxes or whatever. Really fun things that, to me, I've always wanted to be able to do, and I never had the technical tool that would let me do things like that, like drag and drop into I tried doing it with Google Slides. It was really complicated. Jamboard definitely, I think, makes some of those kinds of activities really easy.
Really easy, right? That's where I go. Like, of course, you have to obviously become familiar with it and play with it, right? A little bit, but what is always appealing to me, Jamboard, is really how easy it is. And just to, again, see, so say I want to kind of see how you're feeling, right? Like, okay, how are we feeling right now? So what I do again is I share again. I have made you a viewer, but I'm going to make you an editor right now. I copy the link. I go to the chat. Again, drop the link. So you grab that link, and I made you editing. Yes, that's good. So, and then I ask you how you feeling again, and then move again through the continuum. How are we feeling right now? That then you play a little bit with it, and then you can assess, right, formatively on the spot a little better.
How did you make the little dots?
I started. I've been recycling this for a while, so let me think how I did it. I think I inserted an image.
It looks like an image to me.
And you put it in a text box, is that it?
You could just, it's like you add an image to your
No.
Jamboard.
Let's do it. I'm gonna say Google Images. I'm gonna say dots or one.
It could be a candy bar. Like, think of all the things you could have as your.
So see, for example, see,
And then you just duplicate that.
and then I go duplicate, and there is a duplication, so I don't have to like insert again by doing this, right? Duplicate. And what I do is I look at the registration. Like today, I said, oh, we have 20, so I made sure I had like about 20, 25 dots,
Great.
Yeah. I love continuums, timelines, Jamboard. Palette actually has improved a lot of the timeline now, but I like to do timelines and assessing rating knowledge that way with Jamboard quite a bit. And I have different backgrounds for it, or that I keep reusing, or I keep making copies of it, which you could, right? You go, so you don't have to think about it again. You just simply make a copy, right?
And Lori has a question about using this in breakout rooms. So can participants in a breakout room each share a different Jamboard? So you're saying there's 4 different breakout rooms and there are 4 different Jamboards, or maybe 4 different pages in a Jamboard? I've seen it done that way, right, Liz Elena?
Yeah. So you could, if you want different Jamboards, you have to give different links, right? You have to get link 1, link 2, link 3, so different actual Jamboards. But what I typically do is You know, I go group 1, so sticky note, right? And I go group 1, boom, right? So this is for group 1. If you're in group 1, you come to panel 1, group 2, and that's what I do. And then you make sure people understand, right? You make sure participants get it, you know, how to get to the panel and how to navigate from panel to panel. It typically works. But if
And
you
they
really
could-
want different jams, different links.
And they could work on it, you know, just by going to the Jamboard, but they also could share their screen. One of them could share their screen in the breakout room,
Yeah.
and they could look at it all together that way. But they technically would all be seeing the same stuff because that's how the Jamboard works. So it was confusing today, I think, right? Like there are times when you're in the Jamboard and you're seeing that in real time. Padlet has this as well. And then you're in the Zoom looking at the Jamboard, and that can be one of those things that you can have to just work with people on, like knowing when they're in the Zoom and when they're actually in the Jamboard, because that can create some confusion, right? You could be looking at a Jamboard on a shared screen, but you actually can't edit it from there. So you have to know that you're looking at it in Zoom and then know how to get back out to a tab.
No tool, you know what I mean? Like, no tool is learned right away, you know, like students need to practice, you need to practice, tools get actually updated. So I like my Padlets too. And I was working on the timeline the other day and I noticed that they improved it. Now they have columns and I didn't know how to work it out. So I had to spend time playing with it to understand it, but the same goes for the students. And it's like reading strategies, you know, like what I always recommend. Don't teach 20 strategies, you know, stick to 1 or 3 that work for you, work for your audience, and build on it. Same with the tool. The Padlet, Mentimeter, you know, what do you want? And stick to certain things that are easy for your students and they're accessible for you and the students.
And that's, I think, another big piece of this, right? So this is about you, this is about your students, this is about the devices you're using. It's about your objectives, it's thinking about what people will have when they leave. Those are all things I use when I'm deciding which tool to use. And as Liz Elena said, like keeping it down to 2 or 3 tools that people get very familiar with. And they also know, like every time we're gonna comment on a document or we're going to do a math problem to introduce something, we know, everyone knows to do this thing. That's a really, I think that's a very valuable way to use technology.
Yeah, I think so. Enhancement, amplifying. So I never think when I begin a lesson or a training or a course, you know, I never begin, well, what are my tools? No, I begin, if you're a backward designer, you know, what do I want my students to know, participants, by the end of this session? What do I want them to walk away with? And then I create my lesson, or for whatever audience. It could be you all, you know, in a course with me. It could be me teaching the students, right, in the classroom. And then I go, okay, normally I would have done this with a paper, but what are my tools that I can enhance now digitally? Because it's a thing, you know, we learned that how important technology is, and there is this aspect that we need to incorporate. Like, how do I do it in a way that enhances what I'm already know, what I am already good at?
So I'm going to jump in and I'm going to show you how to make a QR code quickly.
There you go.
I wrote it out in the chat, but that's still the way I do it, and I'll tell you why. But I'll show you a really fast way that's actually googly. So let me share my screen. So
Perfect.
Again, imagine that I wanted to share a QR or make a QR code for a jam that I wanted everyone to be able to join on their phones. When I'm looking at my Jamboard, I go up to where the address bar is, right? Sometimes we call it the Omni box, right? This long address bar up here. And if I go all the way over, I can see I have a couple of different things over here. What's that star mean?
Favorite.
Favorite, right? Like bookmark. So if I want to bookmark something, I can use the star. What's this other
It's a
icon?
share.
Right, it's share. So it's that little arrow pointing out. There's lots of different symbols for share. But if I click on share, one of my options is create a QR code. What? Yeah. So this QR code is one that's made by Google. The downside of this for me is I cannot just right click and copy the image. I have to download it.
Hmm.
And that's fast. You just download it. It sits in your download file and then you upload it again. I've also just done my snipping tool and snipped it. But the way that I described it in the chat, what I do often do is I get that share link, I copy that link, and then the tool that I like to use is something called KWA. And the reason I like it is because I can just copy the image. So I paste my link in here. The one trick is that you want to click static, because dynamic, you get limited amount for free. So if I click static, I click generate, but it's like, do you really want to do that? And it's tricky because you're like going to say yes, but no, you want to say, I want to continue to work with my static QR code. So you have to click this link below. And now I have my QR code. And this one I can right click and copy image, and then I can just paste it. So I still tend to use this, but it's really cool to know about this one because literally any site you're on, you can just make a QR code like that. It's just to use it, you have to download it.
So you set up the QR code and the students hold up their phone and immediately, boom, they're on the Jamboard.
yeah, so they have to hold up their phone. They're going to use nowadays, I think almost every phone. So this is one of those things you test out with your students, but any newer operating system at this point through the camera. So they turn on their camera, they hold up their phone as if they're taking a picture, but they do not take a picture. And in the middle of the picture viewfinder window, there's usually a little circle. You want to make sure that's on the QR code. And then usually a link pops up and they have to tap on the link. And that can be small and hard for people to see. So they have to practice that a little bit. If you don't see it that way, there are apps. In the old days when I used to do lots of stuff with QR codes, the first step was everyone had to download an app, which was more of a commitment. But now, like I said, most smartphones will just have it embedded in the camera. But you don't have to take a picture. Taking a picture won't get you there. It's holding up the camera. And then
But all I really need is one student in every breakout room who can pull this off.
exactly.
And then they share their screen and they're on the Jamboard.
Yeah.
And then
Oh,
I could do this. I'm going to do this.
yeah, play with it, Lori. We want to hear back from you because the complications there are like I was just looking at my Jamboard and I wasn't actually able to move.
I'm going to do it. This is good.
Yeah, so we'll look forward to hear from you. But try it out because that's how you learn.
That's right. Makes sure.
Nell, when you said that it's available for other programs, do you also mean like other Google Docs and stuff?
Anything. So if you're in Chrome, this is actually a Chrome feature, right? So if I'm in my Chrome, I'm going to share my screen again, and I want to get a menu for my favorite restaurant or something, or what's a good example? Maybe I want the bus schedule, right? And I find the bus schedule that I want. I go up here, I'm in Chrome, so that's the key. And then I'll see that share. And again, I can make a QR code. So any website you can get to in Chrome, you can make a QR code for that simply. You can certainly do that with the KWA as well. But this is something built in there that is relatively new, but you have to look for it under that share. So you have copy link, send to your devices, which is also interesting, right? If you're I'm a little bit of a Google-centric person, so I have an Android phone. So if I wanted to send it to my device right now, I could send this link to my, let's see what my devices are. Oh, it only knows my computer. So this account doesn't know about my phone, but I could send this link to my laptop. I've never needed to do that, but it's cool to know that you can do that, right? So we have copy link, send to your devices, create QR code. This is about casting. So if I have a Chromecast connected to my television, I could actually cast this to the television, which is just like Apple TV. You know, there are all these tools out there depending on which way you've gone. if you're Apple or if you're Android.
Exactly.
And then you could save the page if that's useful, but that's not as useful to me often as bookmarking it. And I would want to organize my bookmarks so I can get back to find things. So working on bookmarks is also very useful skill set in Chrome.
It is. One key thing aspect of if you're in person, right? And as I said, I recently used it at a conference actually in person. If you want to use them in anything digital that you want people to access it, the QR code is super easy. So I had two Mentimeters, I had a Jamboard, I had a Padlet, and everything was through the QR code. So I will say, all right, join my Padlet to this gallery walk, and then they will access my Padlet by reading the QR code. So they will bring their phones and they will do it. So it's key. It's very useful for the transition. So the question for in person, how do I share the link QR code?
And the QR code is really helpful in a situation like this. Like I played around. There was a Google Docs activity I wanted to do with you, and I wanted you to try it on your phones. If I want people to do things on their phones, a QR code is the way to go. If I know that they're going to be doing it on a laptop or a computer, then QR codes are not helpful, right? Then you want to send the link or put the link up somewhere where they can find it and click on it. And then if you are using QR codes, you want to make sure that whatever content it's taking people to is useful on a phone, which not everything is, right? So a Google Slides presentation, useful on a phone? Yeah. Really works aesthetically quite well. A video, would you share a video on a phone? Yeah. Would I share a Sheets document that I wanted you to put stuff into? Probably not. I might if I had to, but Sheets would not be so nice to use on your phone.
I think your homework from today should be create a beautiful one thing, create a graphic organizer, create something, one thing, create something with the Jamboard and send it to us. I think.
And in the slides, we've talked about Canva before, but Canva actually has a lot of templates. So you could go to Canva to make a template, download it as an image, and then put it in as your background. So if you're fancy, you can try that out too.
Canva is not a Google product, but I know we do the Google.
We feel like it connects well, right? It allows you to create headers for your forms. It allows you to create image sites or your slides. And in this case, I think it could be you can actually look for Jamboard templates and they're in there, and there's lots of graphic organizers already created that then you could edit to make them specific to your stuff, but using their fancy graphics.
But I think that's what you should do it. Do just one activity. And
So I'm going to share the link to our slides one more time in the chat, and then we're kind of out of time.
Yeah.
Next session is going to be on Google Draw, which kind of is in the same world and something I'm less familiar with. So I'm going to be learning a lot before we see each other again.
Sabrina, we have a blog where we keep everything. We'll share the link. Yeah.
So this, we started recording a little late, but we usually post the recordings, and you'll see in the slides, if you go to the very last slide, it has a link out to our blog. So we have a blog that shows the video for each session that we recorded. Not all of them are recorded, but most of them are. And the slides are there, and there's a little overview. So you can go back and see what we've done in the past. We did do, last time we had evaluations, and people gave us some ideas for our next fiscal year plan. So as I said at the beginning, we have 2 regular sessions left, May, and then in June, we'll have our
Tell, right?
our show and tell.
I'm looking forward for that.
Yes, I'm going to be reaching out to some of you, so don't think you can just not be involved, because I know you've done amazing things and we want to see them. But don't be shy, just sign up. And then we will have a break for a couple months, and then we'll start up usually in August or September. So if you have topics you'd like to share because you know lots, or you'd like to know more about, you've heard whispers about something, do reach out and let us know. Liz Elena and I think you have our emails for both of us in the
Okay.
class,
Yeah.
so. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Lovely. Yes.
We look forward to seeing all your jams.
So
I
now-
actually have to say, we were just at a conference and we had a photo booth, and I have my Jamboard prop, which is very jammy. See, it looks like jam. That's sitting right here.
Am I screen sharing? Stop share. Oh, God.
All right.
All right, you
What's
guys.
the last name, please? I will find it. Sabrina, do you have the slides?
Yes, I got the slides today as I was with you.
Excellent. So go to the back, go to the last slide, I think, and it has the blog link. It's hard to get to. It's a Google blog, and the name doesn't really help you get to it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I wanted to say just sorry for the interruption. It's the first time I attend a group that really is doing something fantastic, because I'm taking many webinars trying to learn as much as I can about technology, but I like the way you've been straight to the point. And I discovered you actually through the organization for which I volunteer. So I'm very, very happy, and thank you very much for the quality.
Well,
Oh,
thank you.
We're happy
That's
to
very
hear
lovely.
that. That's the best. We try.
We try.
Thank
And that's
you.
part of what the idea of Google Club is, that it is this. It's a sort of fast moving. We want to move to, so we have more of you guys sharing what you're doing, but the hands-on and the thinking it through and, you know, deciding which tool to use. Those are the underlying pieces to all of this. So again, thank you so much.
All right. See you all.
Thank
then.
you.
Bye.
Thank you. Take care. We'll send you an email with all this stuff too. We do that usually a day or two later. All right. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Great session.
Bye.